What's happening, guys? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend, a great July 4th. Obviously, we're here Friday, right after the day off, but still, I'm sure a lot of people's festivities carried through the weekend. So, we do have a full week ahead. No mini weekends in the middle of the week, unfortunately. Although that was kind of nice, but it'll be good to have a normal week. Um, some great opportunities last week. There was definitely some decent runners, decent action, decent opportunities. Um, First and foremost, as usual, scan. I'll have, a number of trades on scan. However, my focus is going to start to go down to about two or three by the morning, and then probably two or three other watches throughout the day. So I'm never looking to trade 20 stocks, 25 stocks, anything like that by any means. But my goal is to just stay familiar with things, just because as the moves start to progress, I'm that much more familiar with them. They stay on my radar. I'm able to kind of react that much faster. And with that brings some type of edge. So, with that said, like I said, July 4th, so we had our 4th of July sale. So we have a lot of new members in the room. So first off, welcome. If this is your first scan, I'm sure many of you guys have seen the Sunday scans before. And you can kind of get a feel for how we do things. But take it slow, relax your first day in the room, and just get a feel for exactly how we go about trading within the room and sort of the way that we run it. We do have an additional room called the Traders Lounge, and that's really geared towards the folks that need to ask more questions, the kind of the mentoring, the Q&A sort of aspect of what we offer. So there's a lot of people in that room, both moderators and other members. And it's really just members helping members, which is fantastic. So we've got a lot of great guys. But as always, like I tell people, it's fine to PM me. Absolutely fine to PM me, and I'll always get back to you. But if you post it in the room, in the Traders Lounge, there's a good chance that probably 2, 3, 5, 10 other people might have the same question as you, but they're just not going to ask it. So you asking it is going to help other people, which I think is beneficial all around, because you're also going to learn when other people are asking questions that you kind of didn't think to ask. So just keep that in mind. And again, we're always here to help, and welcome to the room. Tomorrow is going to be the last day that I am not going to be in front of my screen the full time. I don't really have anything until about noon. Unlike the prior days where I kind of just traded the open. That was pretty much the one vacation, maybe one out of two, but normally just the one vacation that I take each year. So still was there each morning, and ended up being a pretty decent week. So with that said, at some point this week, I will figure out the date, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday. I got to talk to my wife and figure out the best date's going to work with her, but we will do a webinar and bring everything current, and field any questions that you guys might have. And like I said to start this, as usual, game plan is just to be familiar with as many stocks as I can that fit my style, and then when I see them, I'll be that much more prepared because I've already been there, seen it, done that. So, first and foremost, Maxar, MAXR. First off, it was a beautiful breakout last week. This was a scan plan where basically I wanted to get long off of dips, any weak opens for continued breakout, and I was thinking that it could go into double digits. So we got exactly that. Friday was a pretty clean move. This is, you can kind of see a nice ABCD setup, those of you guys that are familiar with our videos, where you're starting to get a nice little base here at the 930s, and it's a higher low, higher low, higher low, versus the retest of the prior top at 950. It busts through that and pretty much carries on the rest of the day. So very clean breakout there. I'd be looking for more of that the next couple days. All pullbacks, I basically use 960s, 970s. I prefer to see 980s kind of base after a few maybe washouts out of the open, meaning maybe it flushes out to 970s, 960s, but then it starts to base at 980s. That's what I'd like to see. That would give me a little bit of confidence that this thing's going to continue on. But I want to be cautious in the same sense that, I had mentioned with Uber, where, we had a great breakout, but here we are, we've got that 45 level where it couldn't close above it, right? So obviously it had touched 45 this day, the IPO day. Then it came back up here, it busted through it, but it closed under that 45 or right around it the last, this time, the fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. And then it finally closed over it, but it quickly went straight back under it. So the point here is that if you compare that to MAXR, you've got resistance here, right? You've got a prior top. It couldn't really close over that 9 level. So with that said, we might see this fantastic breakout, just like we did with Uber. Okay, it finally breaks through. Here we go. And then, nope, right back under it. So it could be a false breakout. It could be a situation where, there's been no real reason to cover. Even these big rebounds got sold off. Then it ended up coming all the way back down. This is the first time that it actually holds trend. It actually gets over the prior resistance. So it's the first time that gives anybody a reason to pretty much cover. So if that is the case, then you might get that forced kind of cover, the panic, the freak out type of momentum, which makes it look like a big breakout. But as soon as that is done, just like on Uber, as soon as the 45 stops are blown out and everybody that was, kind of hedging against the 45, 46 level, whatever, as soon as that happened on Uber, the tides changed and tide turned, and here we are back to 43s. So as much as I would love to continue to buy week opens and continue to hope for a breakout here on MAXR, I just want to be super cautious in that it may want to come back and test this 9 breakout. So that's pretty much it. I do like, though, the fact that it had busted through it, came back, retested, and this is already 3 days that it's pretty much held over that level. So to me, that's bullish. And to me, I want to be looking at 10, 20 cent type pullbacks off the open, maybe 30 cents max, and then rally backs. If it does pull back more than that, 50, 60, 70, I think you're starting to get to the point where it's the point of no return. So I'd probably avoid that. RAD, pretty nice breakout here. You can see we talk about these wicks. Dip gets bought up, dip gets bought up, dip gets bought up. Similar situation, you might want to assume that it might have a little bit of difficulty in this level, the 950 levels, but for right now it's setting up pretty well. It's had a pretty decent move since this first big day, and I think that was earnings if I remember correctly. It was kind of a delayed breakout. I had lost on the first move, and then it ended up pulling back, and I got long towards the end of the day and captured a nice, I think it was like $1.50, $1.70, something like that per share. So from that day forward, it's pretty much put in a base at 870s and now, or at least consolidation at 870s. And the thought process last week was that if it broke and was holding that 870 level, then I'd be interested in a breakout. So, and I would say 850s consolidation, not 870s consolidation that I just said, and meaning it actually was going sideways at this 850 level, working people out, working shorts in potentially, but it was topping out at 870s each time, and therefore 870s was a level for me that, hey, if it starts to break over 870s, comes back, holds that level, then I'm potentially interested. So that was that. FCEL held really well on Friday, so I shorted it twice. I shorted it relatively early off the open, got a nice washout, covered the majority of it. Again, just because I was not looking to have a hero style trade, I was looking to put some on and let it work. So I shorted off the open tape, had a nice washout, covered, and then I put a stop at 82.1. Just on one, I had about a 1/4 size left, and I ended up stopping out right at the top, of course. And then it ended up coming back. I reshorted it and faded it and covered some of it here, most of it there, and I had a small batch left, so which I ended up covering as it breached VWAP. So overall, okay trade, but what you can kind of see here is this overall trend kind of grinding up. So I want to be cautious with that. I want to be, coming in with an open mind here that, clearly there's some support here at 70s, and then there's also some resistance at basically 80, 82, right? So if we get over that 83 level, I think that's when you can start to have that melt up, that push out of this consolidation area and really get back on a horse. And so we'll see what happens with that. If it gaps up too high, if it does like an 85, 87 gap up and it quickly ramps, then I would probably be looking to fade it. But if it just kind of opens up and it starts to develop a trend over time, then I would probably join that. So again, I love and prefer to short it, but for right now, I think we need to just be aware of the trend and understand that it looks like it kind of wants to hang around a little bit, and not underestimate what it could do just because it had nearly 150 million shares traded, and it's essentially traded 300 million shares, about 100 to 300, yeah, just shy of 350 million shares in the last 4 days. So that's what I look for, and that kind of liquidity, especially if it stalls a little bit and has less volume and upside. Given that, and given the size that people might have been shorting and trading, we could have some nice little fireworks. So we'll see what happens with it. Teva came way back, way further than I would have imagined off this kind of unwind under that 8 test. Or I guess it did go under 8 for a brief moment, but pretty straight trend up off the 8s, and so at this point, I'd like to see it kind of come back towards 960s, and then use that as a fade and potentially ride it back down under 9s into the 850s or something like that. You can see that there's a little bit of pressure. We've got some morning move there. But when I talk about 9:45, 10 a.m. plus trend join, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because you can get in trouble here off the open and it flushes out and it ramps back and kind of pulls down. But what I want to focus on here is after 9:45, after 10 a.m., the trend starting to develop, comes back and it confirms first VWAP. And at that point, you can pretty much risk off of VWAP all day. So that's what I look for when I am looking to join that trend 9:45, 10 a.m. plus. It doesn't mean that I'm looking to get in at 9:45, 10 a.m. I'm looking to see what it does after that time, because a lot of times you can be dead right with the trade off the open, dead right the first 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden the trend reverses. And so now you have all this conviction, this confidence, and you've kind of spent 15 to 30 minutes basically kind of convincing yourself that you were right. And just like even like an AMRN. AMRN, I had made a bunch of money multiple times that day that it gapped up, and then I ended up donating quite a bit right back. And so the point here is, I've had a nice clean washout trade, nice peak versus VWAP over here coming into the open, nice opportunity again, and then after 10 a.m., what do you know? The trend reverses and it's just a straight, steady short fry all day. So that's why I try to treat my trades that I'm prepared for, ready for, high volume type names, I try to treat them as a trade between 9:30 and 10 versus thinking about big picture and what is this going to do all day. I'd rather see it and join it a little bit higher or lower after things have settled out a little bit. OCUL, this one looks relatively boring on an intraday basis. I mean, it's just, this was a big move in the morning, but what I'm thinking is that if it starts to kind of base at this 5 and the volume stays like it is right now, we might start to get some of those 2-3 day breakouts, which we just saw. Was it CVRA or CRVA? Let me double check here. Forget which one it was on Friday. I'm just taking a look because I tweeted a photo of it. It was CRVS. So this is what I'm thinking. We could potentially have a nice OCUL type breakout that lasts a few days. I'm not saying that this is going to go to 8. What I'm saying is we might have one of those days where it goes up, and it goes up out of its normal range as kind of an outlier style breakout. 556, maybe 650, something like that. So I'd be looking at that versus the $5 risk. And I do want to also keep this CRVS on watch. I do not have it on scan yet. I'll adjust it and add it, but CRVS should offer a nice opportunity if it gaps up, maybe 670, 680s versus 7, and see what happens with that. Otherwise, if it opens relatively flat, consolidates at around 650 and starts to break out, it could easily go back 7 to 8 and retrace Friday's move. QTT, oldie one. This was a really nice trade back in the day, and sometimes it gets its volume back. The thing with this one is you can't oversize at all. There's been so many times where I start to kind of scale into a breakout and then it just stalls. So what I would do here is I'd be looking for probably a pullback versus 440s, and then maybe a nice little trend towards 5. But this is also a lot like IQ, where I'd rather sometimes see the move happen and then look to fade it back once it hits some resistance. I could see a move happening just like this on IQ on QTT. So basically, it ramps up again, it pushes through 520s, then it sits back to 480s, 460s. And that would be the fade trade that I'd want. RVLV, I think this thing caught some pretty decent, not upgrades, but forget what they're called, their first time that they cover them. But I think there was some 45, some 40s, price targets and whatnot, and then one higher one. But they got some coverage on last week. Good consolidation at 35. It's been it's been a few weeks now that they've been out there. So I'd be basically looking at maybe a pullback, retrace a little bit of Friday's squeeze into the close. It looks like the squeeze kind of started basically from 37s, 3680, 37s, and then started to really pick up over 37 30s, 37 40s. So typically I'd want to, if I was trading a flush out of the open, if it had a weak open, let's just say 38 20s, I'd really like to see it kind of pull back to at least this prior spot. And when I say pull back, I'm not talking like come in and stay heavy and fade. I'm talking about it flushes out of the gate real quick. So it's got a quick flush, gives an opportunity, and then it rallies right back up. And if the flush out is not met with the buyer and kind of rally back up, then forget it. I'm not interested. Dova, unfortunately, this one I really screwed up. I talk about kind of pre-exhausting yourself prior to the move, right? So this day I was pretty bullish about this. I felt like I had the trade right. A fund did come into this thing and they bought quite a few shares. So I mean that does take into consideration. They might have been tapping their ATM this first day, and then buyers came in and kind of supply and demand took over. But unfortunately, the fact that I kind of pre-exhausted myself this first day, I never really got back there. And looking back, you can see how beautiful of an ABCD type breakout. Looking back on a couple days, which is very beneficial. This is what we talk about in textbook and Tandem Trader as far as a multiple time frame breakout, right? When you get that nice little ABCD type breakout type setup, not only intraday but on a daily chart as well, or in this case over multiple days, then a lot of times you get these really, really nice breakout squeezes, trend reversals, whatever. So at this point, I'd like to see a flush out, probably 1560s is kind of like a number that kind of I feel like I'd want to see. Gap down maybe 20-30 cents and then flush out another 20-30 cents. And then I'd want to rebound that back up. And just to kind of give you an example, sure, the chart looks ugly, but it kind of reminds me of Roku, right? Where this thing it's coming apart, and then they get that gap down day, and then it flushes out, rebounds, and then it starts to come back up. I could see something like that happening on Dova. We've seen it on a few others like IOVA, where you got like this destruction day, and that's all these things. AXSM, they all kind of started that way. They had some type of pullback day before they continued on, and then I think not AQXP, ARQL. Similar, where you've got that big news day, they've got the high volume, and then it kind of just has that constant bid since that day. So with that said, we could easily go back and fill this gap. So, you always have to kind of be prepared with the fact that, maybe it wants to pull back towards these 1480s, 15s, and fill that gap before it rebounds. So if it flushes out and if it stays heavy, that is not the same thing as if it gaps down, flushes out, and snaps back. So keep that in mind. KPTI probably tapping the ATM. Obviously they probably need some money here. If they don't get an offering off, then they'll just keep on hitting the market, and I'm pretty sure they probably did a pretty good job of it with 40 million shares traded. So higher the better, maybe gap up 920s, 930s, and then pull back again. Otherwise, let it kind of chill out for a few days, and then we might get a nice push back up towards 10. They did kind of feel like the value was around 10 plus on the notes that were out before the data. If it failed, 253. If it was successful, 10s. So you might just see a little bit of churn in the next couple days, and then starts to pick a trend. MTCH, I always just kind of keep on radar. Higher the better. Versus 7250s in my eyes. Over that, we might start to have a chart breakout, but you can see that there's been a seller at these levels for quite some time. So for me, higher the better. Fade it versus level. And if it works, it works. If not, it was worth the dime 20-cent type risk for potential $1, $2 pullback. Overstock, nothing I'm excited about, but you gotta stay familiar with it. It's obviously, it's obvious that they are setting it up. Great squeezer so far. The days that it does break out, the candles are huge. So just keep that in mind. I think it's worth noting, like 1530s, 1550s. There's a seller in that area. It's also VWAP on the daily. So that's going to be a key level that it's either going to have some type of probably a PR or something that gaps it up over that level. But it still may act as resistance for quite some time until they move it away from this area. So volume's been good. Let's see what happens. ADBT. A lot of people ask me, what do you mean by unwinder? I got a couple tweets about it last week. And typically, in a situation like a chart like this, or pretty much anything for that matter, I look back and you can kind of see these 38s are kind of basing, right? It's only been a couple days, but still, that's what I look for on the daily chart. things like this where this it's starting to base it, just like on MAXR and on RAD, you're looking for it to come out of the consolidation or the channel that it's stuck in, right? So much like we anticipate a potential breakout when it gets over this chart resistance, or same thing over here where it's starting to base after it gets over this chart resistance. These are the kind of things that I look for breakouts, and likewise, I look for the support, and if it were to get under that 38 level, then I would anticipate or at least expect that it's possible it could unwind. And so that's kind of what I look for. So for me, 38s is key. Otherwise, for now, probably 40 is going to consolidate for quite some time. And honestly, I'm not really looking to trade it much. I do think that it's probably going to just continue to lose volume and then potentially fade off under our radar, kind of like work is doing right now. Higher the better on this one. Continue unwind is ideal, and we'll see what happens with that. IEA, huge volume the other day. The news overall was not anything that was wild. I think it was like a 10% bump to their. They do a lot of money as is. So it was a 10% bump. So does it mean that it's going to go to 4? No. But if they put out another PR, and also the fact that this has kind of got a nice little chart reversal coming in, that coupled with another PR, that coupled with any other positive comments, whatever, could definitely push this up. Also, the volume that day was pretty large. It was very easy to borrow name. It's not a low floater, but it's definitely something that could have that secondary move. And if it does, I'd love to be part of that. XBIO, nothing I'm excited about. This one is just kind of like a first come, first serve, chat pump type name. I mean, it had a kind of a grind, but you can see just how fast this just falls apart, right? There's no actual market here. So there's actually two things here. One is I'm just keeping it on watch, just in case we get a PR and we trade 2 million shares pre-market, then yeah, I'm interested. But otherwise, if it keeps on getting pumped up a bit, we've got a potential for a fade back towards 8s or 6s or something like that near term, especially if they need money, which I have not looked into yet. That's for me to do in the morning. And then last but not least, TYME. I am just keeping an eye on it. Pretty much faded off, but this type of name I typically look for. If it starts to base and reclaim that 150 level, I'm interested in, and it could potentially go right back up towards the 175 level. Sometimes you get that transitional day that I talk about where a lot of the volume comes in, sellers come out. That was a pretty big move from the one consolidation last month. So you need to work out a lot of people, right? Because anybody that just bought in the past month is up 50 to 75%. Work them out, work in new shorts, work out sellers, whatever, consolidate around 150, and then potential move 175 too. So that's it for me. That's what I'm watching this week so far. Again, in the morning, I'm going to really bring this down to 1 to 2 main watches, usually 3 max. And then I'll take a couple, that could be 1 or 2 off of scan, and then another 1 or 2 from pre-market action. Because obviously we probably will have some Monday morning news and some big 20-30% gappers, some other big moves like MU last week was a fantastic opportunity, but again, the edge is not kind of anticipating which way it's going to go. It's reacting to these major outlier type moves. So that's it for me. Again, welcome to all the new members. If you guys have any questions about membership, if you have any questions about joining the chat room, leave a comment, reach out to us, use the contact page, use the pop-up. Tyler mans the website, so he's always around to answer any questions you guys may have. All right, guys, have a great rest of the night, and we'll see you in the room tomorrow.